Good morning, guys. Over the last few months, I've had a low volume progressive coolant leak from the front part of my engine. This is a 2000 Suburban. Today I'm going to tear it down enough to identify the source of the leak. If it ends up being a water pump, which is what I suggest, we'll end up replacing it. Here we go. So let's crawl under and have a look here. We've got two skid plates in the way, and just after driving it for 5 minutes to get it in, I've got a little drip of coolant right there and a couple of drips right there on the skid plate. So let's take these two skid plates off so we can get a better view. You don't necessarily need to do this, but I want to make sure it's not a leaking hose. These are 15mm bolts. So the source of the leak is not completely obvious, and so I'm going to do a pressure test of the system. Well, I was going to pressure test the system, but it looks like I don't have the right adapter. In any case, looking in from the top, switch lights here, I think we have pretty good evidence to say that there is some leakage, possibly right at the gasket between the water pump and the engine. I can't get a light in either from the bottom or above to look at the weep hole. But in any case, I think we have enough evidence now that the water pump needs to come off. Okay, excuse the jiggling, but we've got coolant that's dripped all the way down here onto these devices. And then looking further up, if you look deep in the back there, you can see evidence of coolant leaking higher. That's right at the base of the water pump. And so further evidence to say it needs to come off. So first thing I'm going to do is going to drain the coolant out. Now let me show you. Deep in there, there's the coolant plug right there. I'm going to turn that counterclockwise. Now the little hose to the left of it is the drain hose, and I'm going to put that into a bucket. That plastic petcock was on there too tight for me to get it off with my fingers, and so very carefully I used a 21mm 6-point socket, and we'll loosen off this to allow the fluid to flow more quickly. And here it is draining here. While the coolant is draining, let's take off the snorkel. There's one 5/16 nut here and a second here, and we've got to undo this clip here, and then we'll lift off the air intake assembly and give ourselves enough room. To get this plastic clip off, here you slide a screwdriver in here and pry that tab down, and when it's pried down you can pull this apart here like that. Sometimes these seals where the rubber meets the plastic are hard to break free, and so I find this sort of L-shaped awl, as it were, is useful at breaking free the corrosion. It makes it easier to slide the plastic parts off of each other. Next I want to get the operator hose off, so undo here and hang it up and over, and then comes the cowling with, I believe, 4 bolts on each side. Okay, I like what GM have done with this cowling. There are two 10mm bolts right here and up there. You take those off and then the cowling lifts out. Now this cowling comes in 2 pieces, which makes it so much easier to take out. You've got a couple of plastic tabs here. You slide your tool underneath these and lift. That's what they look like there. Let's lift the cowling off now. So now comes our first challenge, which is to get this fan nut off. I'm going to spray some PB Blaster on it. Now there are some holes that are deep to the surface right there. I don't know if you can see them. And I'm going to see if I have a wrench that will permit me to hold the engine in place while I undo this fan nut. Okay, so I'll show you how I did this. This is a universal fan clutch removal tool. The one I'm using is 36, but I think it's actually 35 that you want. And then this is the one with the two bolts that go down into the holes with a long cheater bar on it, and with that kind of leverage it was very easy to get those two apart, but without the right tools you might have difficulty with this part. So I'll slide off this fan now. And I'll show you this tool here. These two ends stick into those two holes and hold the fan so you can undo the nut. Now let's lift out the bottom half of the cowl. Okay, so let's look at some of these structures here. Here's the belt tensioner, idler pulley, this is the alternator, power steering pump, water pump pulley, and of course the main crankshaft is there. That's the air conditioning with the secondary air conditioning pulley, and I draw your attention to all those cracks in that AC belt. So I'm going to change out that belt while I'm at it here, but what I really notice is all of this evidence of brownish crusting from leaking water, and I presume it's from the water pump. Now our next step is to take off these three hoses, and so we'll do that now. Those three hoses are off, so now let's take off the serpentine belt. So we'll loosen off the belt tensioner. This is a 15 millimeter. Okay, next I'm going to remove some hardware just to make it easier to move things around. This looks to me like the thermostat housing, and it's not present on the new replacement. So I'm going to undo this bolt, and the other one you can't see on the other side here. And then the belt tensioner needs to come off. I'm going to take off these three bolts. And then this idler arm pulley, I'm going to take that one off as well. So we'll take all those three off. Okay, we've taken off the thermostat housing and the two pulleys, and I've got a better view here, and I want to show you something. If you look underneath the throttle body at this mirror, under the throttle body I've got a little bit of a leak from that hose there, and that hose is this one right here, and it looks like a cooler hose that goes back to the radiator, and so that hose seems to be leaking there, and so I've got some evidence of even some rust in the back there. So my problem isn't just the water pump, but maybe other things. Now I'm going to change the water pump regardless, because we've got pretty good evidence of leakage down lower that we'll see in a bit, but that may not be the only problem here, and so we need to stay vigilant that we want to get the problem fixed and replace any hoses that might be bad.